Kenna is officially back, and this time it feels like Ember Lab is aiming for something bigger, darker, and far more ambitious than what came before. With the announcement of Kenna, Scars of Kosmora, confirmed for PlayStation 5 and PC and targeting a 2026 release, we're not just talking about a sequel for the sake of it. We're talking about the continuation of a world and a character that left a lasting impression on a lot of players. The original Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, was one of those games that quietly arrived, looked charming and approachable on the surface, and then completely surprised people once they actually sat down and played it. What initially seemed like a cozy animated adventure revealed itself to be a game about grief, loss, unresolved trauma, and the emotional weight of helping others move on when you yourself are still carrying burdens. That context is incredibly important when talking about Scars of Kosmora, because Ember Lab clearly understand that Kenna's appeal was never just about cute rock creatures or beautiful environments. It was about tone. It was about contrast. It was about placing a young spirit guide into situations that were emotionally heavy and sometimes outright uncomfortable, and trusting the player to sit with those feelings rather than rushing past them. The fact that the sequel's title leans so heavily into the world scars immediately suggests permanence, damage that doesn't simply disappear once a spirit is freed or a curse is lifted. Scars are reminders. They're proof that something painful happened and that the world or the person has been fundamentally changed by it. Kosmora itself is one of the most intriguing aspects of this announcement because even without concrete details, the name carries a sense of scale and mystery. It doesn't sound like just another village or forest path in need of healing. It sounds like a place with history, possibly one that has already suffered immense damage long before Kenna arrives. That opens the door for a very different kind of story than what we saw in Bridge of Spirits. Instead of guiding individual spirits toward peace, Kenna may be dealing with the land or even a culture that has been shaped by long term trauma where the damage runs too deep for simple solutions. That alone suggests a more complex narrative, one that could challenge both Kenna and the player in new ways. There's also the question of how much Kenna herself has changed since the first game. One of the most underrated aspects of Bridge of Spirits was how quietly it showed Kenna growing under the weight of her responsibilities. She was calm, compassionate, and determined, but she was never invincible. If Scars of Kosmara is truly about lingering wounds, it makes sense that Kenna is no longer approaching the world as someone untouched by loss. She's been through things now. She's seen what happens when people can't let go, and that experience has to shape how she interacts with the world going forward. A sequel that explores that internal change could elevate the character in a big way. From a gameplay perspective, this is where expectations really start to rise. Bridge of Spirits has solid combat foundations, but also felt like a first step. A proof of concept that showed if Ember Labs could design encounters that were more demanding than their art style suggested, a sequel could give them the opportunity to expand on that significantly, whether that means deeper combat systems, more varied enemy designs, or bosses that test not just reflexes, but strategy and emotional endurance as well. The Rot, which were already central both mechanically and thematically, feel like they could take on an even larger role this time, potentially reflecting the darker tone implied by the story and setting. Exploration is another area where Stars of Kosmara could truly shine. The environments in the original game were beautiful, but they were also hopeful in a quiet way. Even in Decay, there was a sense that healing was possible. If Kosmara is a world defined by scars, then its environments may tell harsher stories, broken structures, corrupted landscapes, and places where the damage is visible everywhere you look. Environmental storytelling was already one of Ember Lab's strengths, and pushing that further could make Cosmora feel like a character in its own right rather than just a backdrop for the adventure. It also can't be overstated how important it is that this is a PlayStation 5 and PC only release. Ember Lab is no longer designing around last generation hardware, and that opens the door for more detailed animations, richer lighting, dense environments, and smoother performance across the board. The first Kenna already looked like a playable animated film, and that was on more limited technology. A sequel built specifically for modern systems could be genuinely stunning, especially if Ember Lab continues to blend cinematic presentation with tight, responsive gameplay. This is the kind of project where visual storytelling and technical polish can work together instead of competing for attention. What makes this announcement especially exciting is what it represents for Ember Labs as a studio. Bridge of Spirits was a debut that proved they could deliver a complete, emotionally resonant experience. Scars of Kosmora is their opportunity to show growth, to demonstrate that they can take what worked, examine what didn't, and push their creative vision further without losing the heart that made the original special. The 2026 window suggests patience, and an industry that often rushes projects out the door, that's something worth appreciating. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you want to support the channel even more, check out my Patreon, where the latest exclusive is a review of Metal Gear Solid and a look at how that game revived what was originally the Metal Gear franchise. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, game on.